Okay, let's talk about two viruses, two pandemics. One that kind of snuck up on us over decades, and another that just exploded across the globe in a matter of months. Today, we are deconstructing the story of two of the most significant viruses in modern history, HIV and SARS-CoV-2. You know, they've both completely changed our world, but as you're about to see, they are two very different enemies. Let's break it down.
So here's the game plan for how we're going to tackle this. First up, we'll get a handle on the sheer scale of these pandemics by looking at the numbers. Then we'll dive right into their viral blueprints, what they're made of, and their different strategies. After that, we'll see how our own bodies fight back. And spoiler alert, it's in completely opposite ways. And finally, we'll look at the incredible scientific counterattacks that have saved millions of lives. All right, let's start with the big picture. I mean, the numbers behind these two viruses are just staggering, and they really paint a picture of two completely different kinds of global crises. Now, get your head around this. From the moment it was identified back in 1981, HIV spread quietly across the world. By 2009, 60 million people were living with the virus. That's a number that grew over decades, not months. It was this slow, relentless burn that absolutely changed public health forever. Okay. Now look at the contrast here. In just a little over 2 years, COVID-19 infected more than 500 million people. That's not a slow burn, that's a wildfire. The speed, the scale, it was just breathtaking. A really stark reminder of what an airborne virus can do in a world as connected as ours.
So you've got to be asking why. How could they be so different? Well, to answer that, we have to go microscopic. We need to look at the actual blueprints of these viruses. And this is where this story gets really, really interesting.
So on one hand, you've got HIV, this really sneaky virus called a retrovirus. Its secret weapon is this amazing enzyme called reverse transcriptase. And on the other hand, you have SARS-CoV-2, a coronavirus. Its name literally means crown, all because of those spiky proteins covering its surface. And trust me, these differences are way more than just cosmetic. They dictate entirely different battle plans.
So let's look at HIV's toolkit. It's really built for stealth. You've got its genetic material, the RNA, tucked away inside a tough protein shell. But the real stars of the show are two things: that surface protein, GP120, which is basically a lockpick for our immune cells, and the absolute game changer, that enzyme, reverse transcriptase.
Now, the arsenal for SARS-CoV-2 looks different. It also has an RNA genome, yeah, but its star player is that famous spike protein. And it's not just for looks. It's like a grappling hook that the virus uses to grab onto our cells, especially in our airways, and just force its way in. Okay, so we've seen the blueprints. Now it's time to see these viruses in action. This is where we get into their different strategies for invading our bodies and just taking over. This enzyme, reverse transcriptase, this is HIV's masterstroke. It's a biological marvel. It literally rewrites the fundamental rules of biology, turning the virus's RNA into DNA. And why is that so huge? Because that new viral DNA can then be permanently woven into our own genetic code. The infection literally becomes a part of you. And here's exactly how that heist goes down. First, HIV uses its special protein to pick the lock on one of our immune system's command centers, a T helper cell. Once inside, reverse transcriptase gets to work making that viral DNA. And then comes the truly diabolical part. That viral DNA gets integrated into the host cell's own chromosome, turning it into a permanent factory for churning out more HIV.
COVID-19, on the other hand, is way less about stealth and much more about a direct frontal assault. It has one primary target, the ACE2 receptor. Think of it like a doorway that's on the surface of our cells, especially all over our lungs. The virus's spike protein is the key to that door, and well, it's a perfect fit.
And here's the crucial difference. SARS-CoV-2 doesn't even bother with the cell's nucleus. Once it unlocks that ACE2 door, it just dumps its RNA inside and immediately hijacks the cell's machinery right there. It's basically a smash and grab operation. Make copies, assemble new viruses, and burst out to infect the next cell. It's faster, it's messier, and it's incredibly effective.
So we've seen the attack plans. Now let's talk about the defense. And this is where the story takes another wild turn, because our own immune systems react to these two invaders in completely opposite ways. It's really a tale of two extremes, one where the immune system collapses and one where it goes into a dangerous, self-destructive overdrive.
And you know, this is the paradox, right? Our immune system is our greatest defender. But in the fight against these two viruses, that defense itself can become the most dangerous part of the disease.
This chart tells a really chilling story. HIV's strategy is just diabolically clever. It takes out the generals of our immune system, the T helper cells. You can see right here how a healthy person's count just plummets as the virus gets a foothold. And when that number drops below a critical point, the entire defense system collapses. That is what we call AIDS.
Now, with severe COVID-19, the problem isn't a lack of soldiers. It's that the army goes absolutely berserk. The immune system can unleash what's called a cytokine storm, a massive, uncontrolled flood of inflammatory signals. It's basically friendly fire on a catastrophic scale, causing devastating damage to the lungs and other organs. A lot of the time, it isn't even the virus that deals the final blow, but the body's own over-the-top response.
So you've got two different enemies fighting two different wars. It just makes sense that we need two completely different arsenals to fight them. So let's turn to the really brilliant scientific counterattacks that have given us a fighting chance against both.
This table really lays it all out. To find the stealthy HIV, we look for the antibodies our body makes over time. But for the fast-moving COVID-19, we use things like RT-PCR to detect the virus itself right now. To stop HIV, we use antiretroviral drugs that specifically jam up its unique enzyme, that reverse transcriptase. And to prevent COVID-19, we use incredible vaccines that train our bodies to recognize that telltale spike protein. It's just a beautiful example of science being tailored to the specific challenge of each virus.
And so this is what we're left with. From the long, hard-fought war against HIV, we learned about persistence, both from the virus and from the humans fighting it. And from the sudden, explosive crisis of COVID-19, we learned about the incredible power of speed and global collaboration. So you have two different viruses, two different stories, but one crucial takeaway. The real question isn't just what we've learned, but how we're going to use these lessons to write a very different story for the next pandemic, because there will be a next one.